Yes. Welcome, everyone. Cannabis News with Joe Klare for August 10th, 2018. Presented, as always, by the Marijuana Times. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. A bunch of great articles there, our social media networks. And if you click the video tab at marijuanatimes.org, you will find every episode of the show. You can also search the Marijuana Times on YouTube, Vimeo, and Apple Podcasts. You can find the audio-only version of the show on Apple Podcast. Today, talking about marijuana arrests in Washington, D.C., where legalization supposedly reigns. Also, a big-time lawmaker in New Jersey has come out for marijuana legalization. Well, at least a little bit further out for legalization than before. We'll also play you a video about an 88-year-old woman who's a Republican and is leading the fight in Texas for the end to marijuana prohibition there. All that is coming up. First, of course, Cannabis News. It's brought to you by NatureSide, nature-side.com. Site is spelled C-I-D-E. Check out the organic, all-natural pesticides. If you're a cannabis cultivator in a state where it is legal, you want to grow safe and poison-free, you don't want to use harmful chemicals on your grow, and you want to be regulatory compliant in your state. There's many pesticide regulations in a lot of these states. You want to be regulatory compliant, you need NatureSide, nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Site is spelled C-I-D-E. Go check them out. They're awesome. This first story from marijuanatimes.org by Jason Sanders. Specific D.C. marijuana arrests on the rise despite legalization. Between 2016 and 2017, cannabis arrests are up 37%. Between 2015 and 2016, arrest rates tripled for cannabis, even though cannabis is legal to possess and grow in Washington, D.C., but legal sales still are not a thing in Washington, D.C. There's been a lot of blockage on that, a blockage of regulations and funding for regulations from the federal Congress, something we've addressed on this show before. The biggest reasons, according to Jason, for the arrests is the confusing state of laws in the district. Vendors selling merchandise, such as clothing and drinks, at pop-up events would gift cannabis to customers, but not directly sell it to them. The law says that cannabis cannot be purchased, but it can be gifted. However, since customers will be purchasing other merchandise, police still claim that doing so violates city law. So arrests at these type of events are on the rise, even though low-level possession and home grow arrests have declined overall. About 1,000 people were arrested in D.C. last year for minor cannabis infractions. Still a lot of confusion going on in Washington, D.C. about what they're going to do. There's no regulated sales. As I said, it's been blocked by the federal Congress, the U.S. Congress. So they're kind of in limbo there. And then they tried the gifting thing, which has been tried in other places. And, of course, they have to crack down on that. And it's just, well, there's problems. There's problems because it's not full legalization in D.C. And until there is full legalization, there will continue to be problems. Now we move to New Jersey. This is from Politico.com. Coughlin publicly endorses marijuana legalization. Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin gave a full-throated endorsement of marijuana legalization, telling listeners of his monthly Ask the Speaker radio call-in program that his chamber is working on 2 bills to expand New Jersey's medical marijuana program and legalize recreational use. Coughlin's public approach up till now has been legalizing marijuana. To legalizing recreational marijuana had been more cautious than that of Senate President Steve Sweeney and Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. But now he is behind it. Coughlin said, quote, "For folks who don't want to legalize it, I understand their view, but I would ask, are we satisfied with the status quo? I mean, use of marijuana is still a constant. 3 out of 5 drug arrests are for marijuana. African Americans are 3 times more likely to get arrested. So in trying to address those things, I think if we get the right bill, we'll go ahead and try to pass it." In May, he took a fact-finding trip to Colorado, where the sale and recreational use of marijuana has been legal since 2014. And apparently that changed his tune, changed his mind when it comes to cannabis legalization in New Jersey. So a lot of big lawmakers are behind legalization. Still some roadblocks, if you will, especially State Senator Ronald Rice, who's a leader of the Legislative Black Caucus. He favors decriminalization over outright legalization. But obviously Coughlin said and pointed out why that is a problem. He said, "I don't think decriminalizing is a scheme that works. It doesn't change the fact that it would be legal to sell it, but legal to possess it, which is kind of an odd conundrum. It allows the bad actors to have a client base that doesn't have any risk. In other words, drug dealers, they can grow it legally. They have they have clients who can buy it legally or possess it legally, but they can't sell it. So that couple seconds during the sale, that's where the illegal thing happens, and everything else is legal. And it just makes very little sense why you wouldn't also legalize sales as well. Now, this next video, this last story is from Now This. They have a lot of videos about cannabis. They put on Facebook and YouTube, etc. It's an 88-year-old woman. She's Republican in Texas. She is for marijuana legalization. She says that the conservative issue is consistent with her conservative principles. Many of you may know this woman. She is the mother of Richard Lee. If you don't know who that is, Richard Lee is the man behind Oaksterdam University in Oakland, California. He was also the man behind Prop 19. He was one of the major funder behind Prop 19 that would have legalized recreational cannabis in California in 2010. That measure got defeated, and that was 8 years ago when she was 80. And it was a big deal then that she was a Republican, older woman in Texas fighting for legalization, and she is still doing so. Check this out. 88-year-old Republican fighting to legalize cannabis.
I do not have words to adequately express the horror I feel at what the drug war has done to this country. I'm Ann Lee, 88-year-old Republican activist who, with my husband, we founded RAMP, which is Republicans Against Marijuana Prohibition. We became interested in marijuana when our son Richard had an accident that put him in a wheelchair as a paraplegic. And spasms were a problem. And he got out of the hospital and looked at us and said, "Mom and Dad, marijuana is good for me." We certainly did not want to hear him tell us that marijuana was good for him because it flew in the face of everything that we believed at that time. After a lot of prayer and research, we realized that we had fallen for the propaganda that the government had put out about marijuana. It turns out that Texas has terrible laws as far as this is concerned. And the bottom line is that prohibition is not conservative. As a conservative, we believe in smaller government, and prohibition just explodes the size of government. We believe in fiscal responsibility, and the money that we have spent on this drug war is awful. And the last one is individual responsibility. And so why can't a person use the medicine that they and their doctors think is best for them?
She's been in the Republican Party since 1970.
I've been a big supporter of Trump, mainly because of the pro-life, which is a big issue for me. I prayed very hard for Trump to win. I will tell any pro-life person, how can you be pro-life and be against medical marijuana? Because there's so many instances where marijuana is the best medicine. The consequence of these laws have been unfairly fallen on the minorities. The drug war is the most racist thing we've had since Jim Crow. Why is it that the jails are now called the new plantations? Because mostly they are filled with the minorities. And that is what, so much of it is a drug war, the drug laws. And I grew up in South Louisiana where Jim Crow was alive and well. When we got involved in this issue, we realized that we had Jim Crow all over again, courtesy of the drug war. It is a travesty in this great country of mine that has actually put people in prison for possession of marijuana.
Hear, hear. It's a odd crossover. Pro-life Trump voter in Texas, 88 years old, and sees the conservative case for cannabis. There's many instances of that all across the country. Like I said, it's a great example of even the people that you would least expect, the last people you would expect to come around to the cause of ending marijuana prohibition, see the logic in it. So that's awesome. And she's still fighting at 88 years old in a state where, well, it's not easy. Texas is not exactly embracing marijuana legalization or medical marijuana legalization for that matter. There's some low-level CBD stuff in Texas, but that is about it. Thanks, everybody, for checking out Cannabis News. The end of another week. Episode 200 today. I just realized that. Episode 200. We should have celebrated more, but it's too late now. We'll go celebrate this weekend. And if people ask you why you're celebrating so much, say, well, Cannabis News has done 200 episodes, and that's really cool. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. Of course, click that video tab. Thank you to Natureside Cannabis, nature-side.com. Side is spelled CID, a proud sponsor of the show. Check out the organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you for continuing to like, share, comment on the videos, and spread the truth about cannabis through this show. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week on Cannabis News.